Konami. You look at them now, and they can be considered a laughingstock in the video game industry. However, they were a company who knew how to deliver with video games, as well as pumping out greatness back in the day. And that is what we're going to focus on for this top 10. There are 2 rules for this list. The first rule is that we are looking at 1 game per franchise, so no sub-series or different universes based on the IP. Only 1 game per franchise. The second rule is that no properties from Hudson Soft will be included. Yeah, the company was acquired by Konami, but we're referring to the games that have been with them since the beginning. So no Bomberman, Bonk, Bloody Roar, Adventure Island, or any of those IPs that are home to the Friendly Bee. Also, this is solely our opinion after much careful discussion and deliberation, so don't be a bitch if your favorite Konami game is not on the list. Just have fun with what you see. With that out of the way, let's get started. I'm Double RPG here, and this is the Geek Fighters Top 10 Konami Games.
Number 10.
The sleeper to start off this list. One of the genres that made Konami become a juggernaut on the scene is the beat-em-up genre. They made so many beloved beat-em-ups that it was hard to pick which ones are truly king. Bucky O'Hare barely makes it, along with some others that are on this list. After the obscure gem of a game that was released on the NES, it was time to take the funky fresh rabbit and his crew from the righteous indignation into arcades. The Bucky O'Hare arcade game feels right at home with everything. A great story that was more of a continuation of the short-lived animated series, stellar music, great characters to choose from, and rad gameplay to top it off. By popping in so many quarters to keep playing, your time with kicking the Toad Menace's ass is a time you will never forget. Period.
Number 9.
The Rocket Knight series, one of the most underrated and underappreciated franchises that Konami ever created. Rocket Knight Adventures on the Sega Genesis is a prime example of just because a game is hard doesn't mean it's bad. But its sequel with Sparkster, Rocket Knight Adventures 2, was the complete opposite, where it sucked for being too difficult. However, we found that the best and most polished experience comes from the Super Nintendo game, Sparkster. This companion piece to Rocket Knight Adventures 2 should have been Rocket Knight Adventures 2 in the first place. It stayed true to tradition with the gameplay, imbibed so much variety, such as the stage where you ride on that mechanical bird and that vertical space shooter level, and what is a Konami game without great music? Yeah, Sparkster on the SNES is pure greatness, and we encourage you to try it if you can get your hands on it.
Number 8.
Up, down, left, right, BA, and start. If you know that code since the mid-1980s, you're the freaking man. If you don't, then you don't know about Contra. Run and gun awesome sauce through 8 levels on the NES is the name of the game. However, does that make it the best one? Survey says no. If we must be serious, Contra 4 was a cornerstone title that brought the series back to where it needed to be. 16-bit and 32-bit graphics with the sprites and environments, side-scrolling action, semi-3D perspective stages, and a killer soundtrack, dudes. Also, we cannot go without saying that this game is what made WayForward Technologies more popular and still one of the most adored video game developers in the United States. If it wasn't for them, then we wouldn't have many games such as Double Dragon Neon, DuckTales Remastered, numerous Shantae sequels, River City Girls 1 and 2, and several others that are too many to count. WayForward Technologies, we thank you for making the best Contra game ever. And we hope that magic continues with Contra Operation Galuga.
Number 7.
Oh man, this is a no-brainer. The Konami arcade games are and still highly regarded by fans and critics, and several people have so many fond memories of playing them back in the day, myself included. If you were to ask them about their memories on arcade beat-em-ups, the X-Men arcade game will always come to their minds. Often seen as an extremely monotonous but satisfying coin muncher in the arcades, playing as the likes of Wolverine, Cyclops, Storm, Nightcrawler, Colossus, or even Dazzler just to kick the Brotherhood of Mutants and Magneto's ass, all while listening to some awful English in the dialogue, is what defines the game in all its glory. Here's the kicker with X-Men Arcade. Most of us saw the game as a 4-player coin-op machine, but if you got lucky, then you would see a 6-player coin-op machine for this game where everyone can play as an X-Men. Think of it as widescreen gaming before that became the norm for today. Yeah, this game was ahead of its time in that technical milestone.
Number 6.
At the height of their popularity, Konami put out the first and best Simpsons game ever made, and what better way than for us to head back into the arcades? The Simpsons arcade game is a wet dream for fans of the series, and we had no idea that this game was going to rock our socks off. I mean, think about it. You could play as Homer, Marge, Bart, or Lisa just to beat the crap out of all the goons that Mr. Burns hired just to stop them from reaching Springfield's nuclear power plant and rescuing Maggie. And we know that conniving son of a bitch just wants that family wiped off the face of the earth, along with having that precious diamond that Smithers stole for him. When was the last time you saw a character wield a skateboard or a giant-ass vacuum cleaner as a weapon? Also, when was the last time you saw a level taking place in a dream? Not that many at all. Before all the crap that came out after it, The Simpsons arcade game is a fresh reminder that it is one of the best things to come out of the property. Seriously, we love this game. It's great.
Number 5.
If there was a licensed property that Konami has given so much attention, love, and care for in the past, then that IP must be the Ninja Turtles. Those heroes in the half shell had many great games, along with a couple of stinkers, but none can agree that the best game they ever made is Turtles in Time. No, not the arcade game, but the Super Nintendo console port. Turtles in Time on the SNES is a prime example of where the home console port is the better version. It has a bonus level with the Technodrome, Mode 7 capabilities were added in the Neon Knight Rider stage, not to mention it and Sewer Surfing were treated as bonus stages, and you even got to fight Bebop, Rocksteady, Slash, and Super Shredder as bosses. Let us also not forget the Time Attack and Versus modes. They all made this game on the Super Nintendo so much better. Too bad the only thing missing was the capabilities of the Super Multi-Tap, where you could play the whole game with 4 players. Seriously, either way, this is a must-play for anybody who loves the Ninja Turtles, and what better time than now since the Cowabunga collection is already in stores.
Cowabunga!
Number 4.
Survival horror is a masterclass genre since the beginning of video games. It seemed like every video game company had their flagship title to represent that genre. Squaresoft has Parasite Eve, Capcom has Resident Evil, Tecmo has Fatal Frame, and Konami has Silent Hill. Silent Hill took inspiration from its contemporaries and busted it up with steroids by focusing on fighting horrid monsters, solving puzzles, and shocking people with its psychological elements. And it certainly reached its apex with Silent Hill 2. Playing in the shoes of James Sunderland, where he goes into the ghastly and surreal neighborhood after receiving a letter from his deceased spouse, Silent Hill 2 goes above and beyond what made the original groundbreaking. Of course, this means that players would have to do everything they can to stay alive against Pyramid Head wherever they go, just to get out of the town alive. Personally, I enjoy Silent Hill 3 more, but I still know a good game when I see one, and I am looking forward to the remake when that arrives.
Number 3.
Yeah, we all know that Castlevania would make it onto the list, and the best entry in the series must be there. What is that best game, you might ask? Is it my all-time favorite, Super Castlevania 4? No. Is it Castlevania Bloodlines on the Sega Genesis? Nope. What about Symphony of the Night on the PlayStation, or even one of the Sorrow games on the handhelds? Sorry, but they don't count either. As I said, we must go with the best one. And that is Order of Ecclesia. What can be said about this game? It is Koji Igarashi at his finest when it came to his run on the series. This was a combination of Castlevania II Simon's Quest, Symphony of the Night, and Aria of Sorrow rolled into one. And boy, does it deliver. Utilizing the new glyph system just to create many combinations of weapons, power-ups, and all sorts of doodads can give you an edge on the difficult boss fights that would jump right in your face. Let us not forget about Shinoa, who has become a well-received heroine amongst Castlevania fans, and she knows how to kick some ass. Possibly seen as Koji Igarashi's magnum opus for the franchise before he departed Konami to make Bloodstained Ritual of the Night many years later, Order of Ecclesia is a masterpiece in every sense of the word.
Number 2.
Alright, I know most of you are going to look at this and say, look, it's Game of Thrones! It's the actual Game of Thrones! Oh, the Game of Thrones JRPG! Okay, shut up! Yeah, we know people love to compare the Suikoden series to Game of Thrones, but have they forgotten about the Chinese novel The Water Margin, where the series actually takes inspiration from? No? Oh, okay. Anyways, Konami is not well known for Japanese role-playing games, as they only have a few under their belt. But the property that represents their take on the genre is Suikoden. The first game was and still is a breath of fresh air, but the franchise did not hit its peak until the second game. Suikoden 2 took everything that made the first game great, but made it legendary and memorable amongst those who adore the series and the genre at the same time. You got a game that has everything in it. comedy, tragedy, war, romance, magic, and the whole 9 yards. Not only does it take inspiration from the water margin like the first game, but it also took inspiration from Frank Herbert's Dune when it comes to one of the main characters. Yeah, the game is memorable for the main cast, but the 108 Stars of Destiny is how the game shines brightly from every angle. Also, let us not forget that bastard Luca Blight, who is still revered as one of the scariest and most evil antagonists in video games. Top that off with a great soundtrack, a solid battle system, tactics combat, and one-on-one duels, then you get what may be a masterpiece in the making. If there was one Japanese role-playing game that the Geek Fighters would want to take with us and to continue playing while stranded on a deserted island, it would have to be Suikoden 2. Alright, let's get that recap on those great Konami games before we get to number 1. Number 10, Bucky O'Hare in the arcade. Number 9, Sparkster on the Super Nintendo. Number 8, Contra 4. Number 7, X-Men Arcade. Number 6, The Simpsons arcade game. Number 5, Turtles in Time on the Super Nintendo. Number 4, Silent Hill 2. Number 3, Castlevania Order of Ecclesia. And number 2, Suikoden 2.
Number 1.
I know some of you were concerned about why a Metal Gear game hasn't shown up on the list yet. Well, here it is. Selecting a Metal Gear game was tough because most of them are true works of art, but we had to narrow it down to 3, Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, or 3. Metal Gear Solid on the PlayStation was groundbreaking for being cinematic heavy and having several plot twists, but that ultimately fell through. Metal Gear Solid 2 was groundbreaking for being ahead of its time when it comes to the themes surrounding the plot, along with excellent controls. But that also ended up on the chopping block. By our estimation, the best one is without a doubt Metal Gear Solid 3. No, not the vanilla version because of its continued bird's eye camera without there being a radar to help. But the best one is its updates that came out after that, Subsistence, and the HD versions of the game. Why? It's because of everything, that's what! Metal Gear Solid 3 since Subsistence is the Metal Gear series at its finest in perfection. A 360-degree camera for a better view of your surroundings, multiple camo indexes to best suit the part of the environment you are in, living off the land with healing wounds and munching down on fauna, avoiding traps, and going back to basics in environmental structure, storytelling, and sneaking through enemy territory with all you got, and without being spotted by the enemy. Hideo Kojima created something special when it came to Metal Gear Solid 3, and it seemed like the series started to lose the meaning of itself with all the games that arrived after that. I don't care about Peace Walker or The Phantom Pain, where they acted more like operation games that encompasses several mission objectives, because Metal Gear to me is mainly being a one-man army from beginning to end without there being any breaks in between. That is what defines the Metal Gear series at its core. Metal Gear Solid 3 follows that by all strides, and we cannot wait to get our hands on Metal Gear Solid Delta when that arrives in the future. If you haven't played Metal Gear Solid 3, then do yourself a favor and do so. You'll be thanking FighterXaos, Double RPG, and MetalBlueEyes later after you complete it.